Welcome to the Urban Farmer Rewind. In each episode, I'll be joined by a farmer or guest to talk about what we heard on this week's episode of the Urban Farmer. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Now, let's jump right into it. It's the Urban Farmer Rewind. Two vegetable farmers with the same size farm. One barely breaks even, while the other thrives and expands their operation. The difference? Not their acreage or crop selection. It was their approach to maximizing value from every square foot they already had. One farmer continued the traditional approach of trying to grow everything, while the other focused on strategic choices that maximize both production and sales. Today, you'll learn how to significantly increase your farm's profitability without acquiring more land, by optimizing your sales channels, growing practices, and space utilization. We'll dive deep into practical strategies that can be implemented immediately, regardless of your farm's current state. You'll leave with a toolkit of specific techniques that successful small-scale farmers are using to double or even triple their income per acre. This is the Urban Farmer Rewind, Season 1, Week 10. I'm your host, Diego, and let's get into it. Meet Sarah and Miguel. They operate a 2-acre vegetable farm that struggled to turn a profit. They assumed that adding more land was the only way to grow their business. But land in their area was scarce and expensive. Their CSA subscriptions were dwindling and they felt trapped. Compare this with another hypothetical farm, Layla and Omar, who focused on maximizing their existing 2 acres. They analyzed their top-performing crops, redesigned their growing space, and strategically extended their growing season with simple low tunnels. They doubled their income in one season by optimizing their growing space, extending their season, developing targeted sales channels that emphasize quality over quantity. Today, their farm produces twice the revenue on the same footprint, and they've become regional leaders in small-scale profitability. When it comes to small-scale farming, in this case, there's 2 paths, an upside path and a downside path. You choose. First, let's look at the upside. Picture this. You're a 2-acre farm generating twice its current income. You're growing more crops per square foot, selling everything you produce at optimal prices, and extending your growing season from 6 months to 8 or even 9 months. Your farm becomes known for its reliability and quality, allowing you to command premium prices while maintaining manageable workloads. You have time to innovate because you're not constantly struggling to maintain ever-expanding acreage. Your stress levels decrease as your bank account increases, and you finally achieve the lifestyle that you wanted to when you started the farm in the first place. Best of all, you're building soil health rather than spreading your resources too thin across more land. That's one path, the upside path. Now let's look at another path, the downside. Here's the alternative. You're working harder each season, but seeing minimal gains. You're struggling to move all your product, watching 20 to 30% of your harvest go to waste due to lack of buyers or processing capacity. You're wasting valuable growing space with inefficient layouts and single-purpose beds and missing opportunities for additional crop cycles because you're stuck in traditional growing patterns. Labor costs increase with your acreage, but revenue doesn't keep up. Meanwhile, your competitors are thriving by implementing the strategies that we'll discuss today, capturing the premium market and loyal customers that could have been yours. While these are hypothetical scenarios, they represent the reality of small-scale farming. And small-scale farmers have a choice. They can either optimize their existing resources or remain trapped in old paradigms, one of which is you need more land to be more profitable. The farmers who succeed aren't necessarily the ones with more land, though. They're the ones who maximize every square foot they already have. Today, you'll learn how to choose your path to profitability. Will you continue the cycle of working harder for marginal gains? Or will you transform your approach to create abundance from what you already have? Let's take a look at some strategies on how to do that. Now, I want to say none of this is a guarantee. That should be obvious. We're throwing ideas out there and theories based on what successful farmers are doing. Doesn't mean apply all of these to your farm, so pick and choose which ones might work for you. The goal here is to get you thinking outside the box, get you thinking creatively, so you could hopefully be more profitable on the land that you have, and hopefully convince you that you don't need more land to be profitable. One of the ways to be more profitable is to sell more product. That sounds obvious, but there's a lot of nuance that goes into that. So let's look at some market optimization strategies. One way to sell more product: upsell to existing customers. It's much easier to sell something to a customer you already have than sell something to a customer that you don't have. You can do this by creating loyalty programs that reward repeat customers with exclusive products or discounts, and develop frequent buyer type cards that offer free items after multiple purchases. You can implement a tiered CSA model where members can add specialty items to their regular shares. The idea here is you get a customer and you get that customer to buy more. You want to raise your average order value for that customer over the course of a season. If you can do that, assuming what you're selling is actually profitable in the first place, you'll make more money. Another way to optimize your market is to enter new markets. Diversify beyond farmers markets. That's the common way that a lot of people get started. It's easy, but there's other places to go. You can explore restaurants, wholesale, specialty grocery stores, CSAs, online markets. Each channel is going to have its pros and cons and price points and different requirements, but they're going to add diversity and anti-fragility to your sales mix and give you the opportunity to sell more stuff. So every week, if you're left with too much product, look for another outlet to try and sell it. You can create innovative product combinations. You have stuff that won't sell or stuff you're long on, or you just want to try and get a premium for product. Why not consider bundling? Package complementary vegetables together in meal kits, a stir-fry mix, a salsa kit, roasting vegetables. I've talked to farmers who've done this with a lot of success. You can take less popular products and bundle them with high demand products to move inventory that might otherwise go unsold. You might have a green that's slow, put it in your salad mix, and somebody might not even know it's there, and salad mix keeps continuing selling at a good rate while you take that green that you weren't selling, and now it's moving along with the salad mix. You can create value-added fresh products like pre-washed salad mixes that command premium prices without requiring processing licenses. Now, there are cottage food laws. Check with your local state and regulators in terms of what you're allowed to do. Maybe you can partner with a chef or commercial kitchen to take some of that excess product and value add it or turn it into something shelf stable. Another way to optimize your market strategy is to collaborate with other farmers. Develop relationships with nearby farms, growing different crops to offer more complete offerings to your customers, or you can give your product to them so they can offer a more complete offering. You can establish regular product swaps to diversify your market stand without having to grow everything yourself. You could have a joint CSA program or a farm store where multiple farms contribute to that single CSA or to that farm stand. It comes with complexity. I'm not saying this is a free lunch, but it's a creative option to try and move product for you and other farms if people feel stuck and like you're not moving enough. If you want to sell more product, also consider doing a product assessment. Look at market demand, the quality, and the presentation and storytelling. Market demand. Look at customer surveys to try and identify exactly what your customers want you to grow and what they don't want you to grow. What are people buying? What are they not buying? What does your square report or your sales ledger say at the end of each market? If you track your sales meticulously, you can start to identify trends and seasonal preferences. You can research what top selling items are at nearby farmers markets, with other farms in your area, with grocery stores, and that'll give you ideas of what you can potentially grow. The idea is to keep trying to filter through crops until you get stuff that all moves really well. So you grow 10 crops, 4 of them don't work, you cut the dead weight, you sub in 4 new ones, a couple of those don't work, and you just keep repeating the process month after month, season after season, and eventually you get a handle on, hey, these are my bread and butter crops, this is what works. Quality. That can affect how much you sell. You might think your product's amazing, but your customers might not. Consider bringing in an objective third party to evaluate your produce against other competitors. You can implement specific quality standards for your crops, size, color, flavor, freshness. It's not just pick it because we have it and we need something to put on the table. Let's have some standards. And develop post-harvest protocols that maximize shelf life and preserve appearance. You can also look at how you're packaging things and experiment with that. Carrots with tops on versus carrots with tops off. Which one sells better? They probably don't sell the same in every market. So learn these things, these little nuances of how you can make your product look better, taste better, and be fresher in the customer's eyes. And the better it looks, the more willing they're going to be to buy it. Presentation and storytelling. Create professional signage that communicates not just prices, but things like the growing method and unique qualities about the product, usage. There's a fine blend here between giving somebody too much information and too little. You don't want to put a Wikipedia page printed out below the tatsoi and 5 recipes to go with it, but you also don't want to leave it unlabeled so nobody knows what it is and it just sits there all day. Keep things as simple and clear for customers as much as possible. I know from talking to reps who buy for Walmart that they look at customers having up to 2 seconds to decide on a product as they scan the shelf. So they figure you have 2 seconds to capture that customer's attention. Scan your market booth one Saturday. Look around. Is everything clear? Can I make judgments within 2 seconds about what this is? Do I like it? How much is it? What's the quantity? Is there confusion? Eliminate all the confusion, make things as simple as possible so somebody can glance and 2 seconds later know exactly what they might want to do. Be sure to be knowledgeable about all your crops, have stories about each crop's heritage, flavor profile, culinary use. If you have staff at your booth or your farm stand, make sure they're educated and the messaging is consistent about your farm's values and practices. You don't want one employee giving one answer and the other employee giving something that contradicts the first employee's answer. So make sure everybody's on the same page. Let's look at an example. Consider Mia's farm stand. She's growing 15 different vegetables, but she's struggling to sell them all. After analyzing her sales, she discovers, what? 5 crops account for 80% of my revenue. Baby greens, tomatoes, sweet corns, berries, and specialty garlic. So rather than expanding her land, she shifts production to focus on these high performers, improving their presentation with attractive displays and detailed variety descriptions, and develops compelling stories about their growing methods and culinary usage. She creates a signature farmhouse salad mix that combines her best-selling greens in ready-to-eat packages. Within months, her revenues increased by 35% without changing her acreage. Her customers began pre-ordering these items, eliminating waste and allowing for more precise production planning. This is something you're going to have to do. This is something Curtis talked a lot about in The Urban Farmer. Constantly looking at sales data, sorting it, and cutting stuff off the bottom. If something's struggling, why continue to grow it? Don't push things uphill. You want to follow them downhill. If you're pushing a product really hard into the market and the market's not taking it, it's not working. So cut that stuff out. That's what Curtis did. That's what Mia did in this example. So here's a quick exercise that you can do. List 3 of your best-selling products and 3 that consistently underperform. For the best sellers, identify specific ways to increase production within your existing space and at least 2 strategies to market them more effectively. For the underperformers, determine whether to improve their marketing or replace them with something more promising, or transform them into components of value-added products. Got a bunch of tatsoi? I'm picking on tatsoi again. Nobody just likes to eat tatsoi. You can't sell it by itself. People don't know what it is. If they know what it is, they probably aren't seeking it out. So you got all this tatsoi. What do you do with it? I can't sell it. Mix it into your salad mix. Now it's hidden in there. People already like your salad mix. They're probably not going to notice what's in there. And they also like the different colors, shapes, textures that different greens add. So you take something that doesn't work by itself, you put it into the mix, and now the mix is its own little party, and people take that party home and have a party in their mouth. I don't know, bad analogy, but you get what I'm saying. Another way to increase profitability or turn the course of your farm without adding more land is to maximize your growing space. There's a couple of strategies to do that: space optimization techniques and efficiency improvements. Let's look at space optimization. Number 1, bed and pathway configuration. Look at your current bed to pathway ratio and identify opportunities to widen beds or add more beds to your garden. A lot of times people go in thinking, oh, I need these really wide pathways, and they just don't like them. So if you absolutely need more space and you have wide pathways, or you have 50-foot beds with a long pathway dividing 2 50-foot beds, consider connecting them. It's not a lot of space you're adding, but it is a way to add space. Curtis talked about this, where he'd have this super bed. Sometimes where he, instead of planting a bed of radish with a pathway, another bed of radish, he'd just plant radishes in the bed, in the pathway, and in the bed. And he'd pick up that additional pathway real estate. That's more crop to sell if he needed it. And he looked at it as like a flexible solution, not something he would do all the time, but if needed, he could go in that direction. If you're constrained by the amount of land you have, these are the types of solutions you have to look for. You have to get creative. If you have unlimited land, you're not doing any of this. But if you don't have unlimited land and your land base is limited and you can't grow enough product, you have to find more ways to squeeze more product out of the land you have. So look at the pathways is one place to try and steal that production. Look at interplanting. Identify compatible crops with different maturity dates, such as radishes and lettuce, or lettuce and tomatoes, or basil and tomatoes, and plant them together in the same bed. And that way you can time it so one crop either gets harvested out before the other one needs that space, or one crop grows above the other crop, tomatoes and basil, and you can harvest them all out of one bed unit. So instead of having a bed of tomatoes, a bed of basil, you have one of both. And you're probably going to get pretty much the same yield out of both with both crops in the same bed. So you're not sacrificing a lot of yield and you're picking up additional bed space. Consider vertical growing methods. Trellising. Instead of letting stuff go on the ground, take it up. Vining tomatoes, vining cucumbers, beans, peas, all these types of things where you want to go vertical. When you can go vertical, you use unlimited space from the earth to the sky that you don't have when you go horizontal. We're all limited horizontally by the amount of land that we have, but we can go as vertical as humanly possible. You can look at nursery utilization. Develop designated propagation areas to start transplants. Why is this important? Well, if stuff's growing in the field, you can start nursing transplants, getting them up to size. So when the harvested crop, when the crop in the field gets fully harvested out, the transplant goes right into the field to take its place, getting a jump start on production versus if you direct seeded that crop. So if you create this multi-tiered shelving system, you can use a little bit of space to grow a lot of transplants and then put together a crop plan that ensures that as soon as one crop comes out of a bed, the next crop immediately goes into the bed, speeding up successions. Another way to boost production, efficiency improvements. Production enhancements such as precision seeding techniques that reduce thinning and ensure optimum plant spacing. The Jang is famous for this. You can upgrade irrigation systems to deliver water more efficiently so you get even crop growth. Even watering can help eliminate disease. You can do soil testing to ensure that you have the right amount of nutrients there. All these things help crops grow better. The better a crop grows, the more production you'll get out of it. One person grows a bed of lettuce poorly, another one grows that same bed well. The one who grows it well is going to get more yield than the one who grows it poorly. So make sure you have your science and engineering side of farming figured out. Soil nutrients, the watering, the right tilth, your plant timing, your varieties, your time of year, any sort of season extension you need. If you can optimize all that, then nature will take care of the rest for you. Strategic crop termination. Curtis talked about this a lot on the Urban Farmer. Not every crop should be taken to full maturity. You have to know when to cull a crop where you get poor germination, where disease is a problem, where you just made a decision that was wrong. You thought you needed 2 extra beds of radishes and you realize, oh my God, that's going to be way too much. I don't need that much, but I actually need more salad mix. So instead of letting one of those beds of radishes go all the way to maturity, terminate it abruptly and get lettuce in there. Be nimble. Don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid to kill crops that aren't a fit for whatever reason, disease, overproduction, or poor germination. Here's a little example to put some of these principles to work. Carlos and Elena, they have a 2-acre farm that has traditional 30-inch beds and 18-inch wide pathways. It's a layout that they inherited when they took over the farm. By reconfiguring to a 48-inch bed with 12-inch pathways, they increased their growing area by nearly 20% without expanding their boundary fence. They then implemented interplanting of fast-growing radishes between slower tomato plants, harvesting the radishes just as the tomatoes needed the space. In their nursery, they built vertical shelving that tripled their seed capacity, ensuring that no bed sat empty while waiting for transplants. They added vertical trellising for cucumbers that allowed them to grow leafy greens underneath, effectively doubling the same cropping space. These simple changes increased their production capacity by over 30% in the same footprint, reduced irrigation needs since less water was wasted on pathways. It's a fictitious example, but it goes to show what you can do if you want to get creative and if you need more space. So here's an exercise. Run a space audit. Sketch out your current bed layout and identify 3 areas where you could implement interplanting, verticalization to increase your production density. Calculate the potential square footage gained by optimizing your bed to path ratios. And for one of your main crops, determine how much additional yield you could achieve through these space optimization techniques. If you have a bunch of room, again, none of this matters. But if you're tight on space and you don't have enough room, especially if you're an urban farmer like Curtis was, you gotta do these types of exercises to maximize the amount of room that you have. One other way to expand your production on limited space is to extend your growing season and increase the number of growing cycles that you're having each year. So you can look at seasonal strategies. Select crops that have seasonal advantages. Look for varieties bred for early spring or late fall production. Research cold hardy or heat tolerant variants of your top selling crops to extend your productive seasons. Create detailed planting calendars that maximize production during the shoulder seasons when prices are typically higher. We're not growing anything different. We're just making sure we have varieties that are optimized for the conditions and time of year that we're growing. If we're going to grow in the spring, let's have a variety that grows really well in the spring. maybe a 5% or 10% boost in production. It might not sound like much, but it can be a lot if you add it up over time, over a lot of beds. So little things you can do to help increase your production. Infrastructure. This is a common way that a lot of farmers deal with changing climates throughout the year. You can look at high tunnels, poly low tunnels, cat tunnels to help extend seasons. So you can look at all these methods, run the costs, and say, is it worth it for us to use some sort of structure or fabric or combination of the two to create a microclimate to enable a crop to grow longer than it would out in the open air? Can I grow enough of it to justify an investment in that infrastructure? If I can, then I might want to consider it. Why would you want to do this? Well, a lot of times when you're looking at implementing these types of strategies, that's because crops don't like to grow during times of year when these types of tunnels would help out. If you're having the same challenge, so are many other farmers, there's less of that product on the market. So if you can grow it, you're one of less farmers selling the product, you can get a higher, more premium price for it. So that's one thing to consider is season extension to enable you to push your crops outside of their normal growing zone, sell to customers for longer in the year, and possibly sell some of your products at premium prices because you'll be one of a fewer number of farmers that actually have that product at a given time of year. Another big way to increase production is increase the amount of cycles that you have each year. Think about this. You have one bed. In that year, how many crops can you grow on that one single bed? Right now, say it's 4. If you can increase it from 4 to 5, you've now gained the revenue of that one additional crop just by speeding up your cycles and by getting one extra cycle in. If you have a lot of beds, that adds up to be a lot of money. So let's look at cycle maximization. Greenhouse starting techniques. Develop a propagation schedule that minimizes time from seed to transplant through optimal temperature and light management. You can create specialized soil blocks or plug trays tailored to each crop's specific needs. Implement hardening off protocols that produce robust transplants that are ready to thrive when immediately planted. I think this is a little bit understated. How well do your transplants do when you put them in the ground? If you do 2 different methods of transplanting, in one of them, you can see the crop start to respond, let's say in 4 days, and the other one, it takes 10 days to respond. Well, that's a week jump that you've gained by the transplanting method. So that's something you can think about. You can look at faster maturing varieties. Research and trial ultra-fast maturing varieties that can fit between May and season crops. Develop a database of these and trial them in your area. Baby crop specialization. Do you grow big spinach or smaller spinach? Smaller spinach is ready much sooner. If you can grow that and get a premium for it because people like to pay more for baby stuff, then maybe that's a way to grow. So young plants like baby greens, microgreens, baby root vegetables. The key here is to know what your market wants. Does it want fully mature crops or can it work off baby crops? If it can work off baby crops, that might bring you premium prices and a shorter time from seed to sale. Let's look at another hypothetical example. This is Jordan's farm, a northern climate with a 6-month growing season. By adding simple low tunnels and selecting cold hardy varieties like winter density lettuce and tango spinach, they extended their harvest by 2 months. They also began starting transplants in a small greenhouse, reducing time in field for crops by 3 to 4 weeks. This allowed them to fit 3 cycles of certain crops where they previously only grew 2. They also discovered that harvesting certain crops at baby size, like Hackerai turnips and Paris market carrots, not only commanded premium prices, but reduced days to harvest by nearly 40%. The revenue per square foot increased by 40% with minimal additional infrastructure investment primarily through creative scheduling and variety selection. This is where you can do a quick exercise on cycle planting. Choose one of your primary crops and calculate how many additional planting cycles you could achieve by using transplants and season extension techniques. Identify specific varieties that could perform in extended season windows and create a basic timeline to show how multiple cycles of this crop could overlap throughout the season, with one planting in the greenhouse while another is in the field. Stacking cycles, getting more turnover per bed, that's an easy way to get more production out of a given land base. So now let's start to wrap this all up. Increasing your farm's profitability doesn't require more land. It requires smarter utilization of what you already have. By selling more effectively through targeted market channels and compelling presentation, maximize your growing space through bed optimization and verticalization techniques, and extending your season through strategic variety selection and simple season extension, you can dramatically increase your farm income from the same acreage. These approaches not only improve your bottom line, but also reduce your environmental impact and create more sustainable farming systems. If you want to take it to the next level, here are 3 steps that you can do to try and increase your farm's profitability and performance. Number 1, complete a performance audit. Evaluate each crop's profitability, demand, and growth. Then identify the top 3 performers and your bottom 3. Make plans specific to either increase the top performers or replace or transform the underperformers in the next planting cycle. 2, create a space optimization plan. Map out one area of your farm where you could implement interplanting or vertical growing this season. Calculate the potential increase in production space and specific crop combinations that would work in this system. Determine what materials you'll need and create a timeline for implementation. 3, schedule a season extension test. Select one crop to grow using different season extension techniques this year. Research specific varieties suited to early or late production. Determine what simple infrastructure you'll need and create detailed production timeline, including propagation, planting, and expected harvest dates to see if it's worthwhile and how much additional harvest you could get from extending your season. There's a lot in here. These are all ideas. They're not guarantees. So I hope this gets your brain moving. I hope it sparks some innovation and creativity. Remember, you don't need more land to be more profitable. You can have more money off the same land. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on this channel, follow the podcast, The Urban Farmer. And if you have any questions, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching and listening. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.